PS Plus Premium members stunned at dramatic decline in quality. Push Square, man, they write this article. They say PS Plus Premium members stunned at the dramatic decline in quality by Sammy Barker. Is slumping back into its old habits, they write about PS Plus, the top tier subscription service, which arrived with the grand promise of cloud streaming retro classics, had been on a bit of an upward trajectory, but a series of subpar updates has since seen it come crashing down to earth. This month's sole new addition is PlayStation 2's first-person battle engine Aquila, I don't know how you say it, which by all accounts is an entertaining adventure, but one this author had never heard of until yesterday. That's not to dismiss the title entirely, of course. It got reasonable reviews in its day, but it's kind of an edition that needs to be accompanied by something more meaningful. Fortunately, the PlayStation 1, PS2, and PSP has no shortage of recognizable titles to choose from, but the rollout of these retro classics has become nothing short of glacial. Here's what we've got in 2025 so far. They list them, and then they said clearly there's some good games, while not trying to belittle what's been made available. But does this look like what the list that benefits £20 or $25 premium Sony is charging over PS Plus extra? We should add the platform holder has bundled a handful of VR titles into Plus Premium recently, which is nice. And of course, you get cloud streaming as well, which is surprisingly sturdy these days. If you've got a PS Portal, you can beam many of your games directly to the device. However, this proposition is not satisfactory to those who have actually invested into this ecosystem. Ladies and gentlemen, behold the ruse. This is pretty much the same sentiment that you got to see. However, it's not from a journalist who, probably, does this for work. This is from people who are paying customers. Remember, I reported on this stuff, and shout out to OP for actually pointing this particular thread to me, where this person put an opinion asking if anybody was extremely jealous between the quality of Game Pass and PlayStation Plus recently. Do you know what's happened, ladies and gentlemen? Xbox has infected the market with a new taste and an expectation. Now, it sounds bad the way I put it, but it's actually quite realistic if you kind of think about it. I mean, when you narrow it down, what's happened is there's now a new taste. So let me give you guys a business example from back in the day. I was speaking to somebody who was running, a Chick-fil-A store, and I asked them, I said, how did you guys grow your customer outreach? Do you know what this person said to me? He said, well, what we did was we took an approach to creating a new taste. Now, this approach was not his approach. Chick-fil-A had already implemented this in different ways, but their operators, were in a position where they were looking for ways to grow, and Chick-fil-A encouraged them to try to create new tastes. So what many operators did was they started to give away free products. They would do it in different ways, but this particular guy said what we did was we took our lowest selling item on our menu, stuff that, we could get away with, and we didn't get swarmed because it's not the highest selling item on the ticket. And when people came around, we'd ask them and say, hey, do you want to try this stuff out? They'd try it out. All of a sudden, we started seeing percentage increases in sales in these specific items. Why? Because the customer now has a taste of something. They will never have tried it in the first place. They'll just go for what they want. Chick-fil-A is signature for chicken biscuits, signature for chicken sandwich, and the spicy sandwich. And then people who don't eat any of those will eat the grilled sandwich. But there's some other things on the menu that people probably will never just go ahead and try because they're used to the things that they are used to already. Does this sound familiar to people who play on PlayStation? Does this sound familiar to people who play on Xbox, who already are familiar with the ecosystem that they play on and prefer to just stay there regardless of what you may be serving, right? However, if somebody brings something new and you end up going ahead to like it, or in some way or manner, you end up going ahead to see what it is, get a taste of what it is, you start asking questions. Xbox has carefully curated and delivered this kind of sentiment by putting their games on PlayStation while those same games are available on Game Pass's Ultimate tier, which is similar to PlayStation's own highest tier. That's why you're seeing this particular kind of sentiment come around in the PlayStation conversations. You know what's also crazy? The people who always, talk about Xbox and downplay what it is Xbox says have had Game Pass subscriptions for a much longer time than even a lot of the people who are here, maybe just discovering Game Pass, maybe talking about it, maybe expressing their interest. Why? Because those people, they saw the benefit of it. As they saw the benefit of it, it was only hubris that made them continue to think that somewhere, somehow, that PlayStation was going to be superior in a face of the market where Xbox was pretty much serving the consumer and giving them the world because they wanted their money. You see, Xbox came groveling in a sense on its knees, metaphorically. And the gamers looked to Xbox and said, what do you have to offer us? And Xbox said, I'm offering you what I think is everything that the gaming industry is not going to give you. And people outside of the game, of the Xbox ecosystem, when they were asking, well, what's Game Pass actually offering? Remember, if you look at even the Xbox games and the titles that were rated and ranked very low, right? Majority of them were left exclusive. The moment these games came out of exclusivity, notice an average increase in general rankings and ratings. Critic scores are higher because everybody has access to it now. Not only that, players have access to it now. When they give early access or they give review codes, everybody can quickly jump into the game for themselves. Whereas those on PlayStation are looking and saying, shall I wait for a reviewer and then risk $60? All of these options that are available now, Xbox is basically going ahead to ensure that players have them. This is why Sammy Barker is writing an article on PlayStation members being stunned at the dramatic decline in quality. PlayStation Plus has always taken a very similar approach, if you ask me. However, the moment they started raising the prices and could not match Xbox's approach, it became that contention between their users who have been giving them money for a while and them asking what that value proposition is when you compare it to the other side of the aisle. So what's going to happen is more and more these articles are going to keep coming out. Do you know why? Because more and more Xbox is going to continue to launch games based on all of the toys that they just recently bought, being Bethesda, Activision Blizzard King, and even their own Xbox Studios games, pumping out their games as well. Add to that the third-party side of it, I think this is probably a done deal. It's a very expensive service to run, but they've committed a huge chunk of their revenue to run it. $1 billion a year, that's good. $1 billion can produce many games. So even if they don't pay a bunch of money to third-party developers, they can invest that money and infuse it into their ecosystem and their studios. And all they do is just bring a lot more games than PlayStation can even fathom to their subscription service that is worth of note, that players are interested in, that makes a player feel like, yeah, I'm actually subscribing to a service. Guys and girls, think about it. Subscription services have always been geared and channeled to give you really, really important benefits. Now, yes, this is why the movie, studios and the movie guys kind of found it very difficult to compete, but many of them were bringing kind of mid to the forefront. That's what happened. And so when Netflix was coming out with all levels of quality, big name, small name and all, it seemed like this was crazy. Netflix should probably be making sure these things go on, go to the cinema and all that stuff, right? But somewhere, somehow, somebody forgot that it is simply because of the quality and the layering in terms of content as well that makes Netflix very strong. What even makes the deal even sweeter is that the person on PlayStation is looking and saying, okay, well, I don't want to buy my games. I don't want to rent my games. Sorry. Well, Game Pass doesn't force you into a rental service. This had always been a misnomer that a lot of people have been saying, well, Xbox wants you to rent your games. When over here, I'm seeing prices and discounts and percentages everywhere. Netflix doesn't let you do that. So that's why these PlayStation pundits are now getting restless. They're writing that, it seems like somewhere, somehow, these PlayStation fans aren't too pleased with what they're getting or the decline in quality. No. What they're stunned by is the improvement in quality of what Xbox is giving to their audience. It's not that, This comment here says, as long as Sony's got fanboys, we'll never get an equivalent service. Well, I'll let y'all deal with that. I play on PC and, Xbox, they need my money and they behave like it. So we'll see how that relationship keeps going. Thanks for watching. Peace out.